Hi everyone, and welcome to our sixth installment of Enlightenment Activation. This episode we focus on chaos, the shadow side of discipline, and how chaos can actually be a trigger for our enlightenment. I spoke to 6 individuals about how they experienced their own perception of chaos and how that led to a greater deepening of their discipline in their own lives in every way, shape and form.
Hi, my name's Tammie Pike. I'm 31 years old and I live in Queensland. My business is Earth Radiance and I help women create the life they love to live. Throughout my life, I have been unable to really connect to the spiritual and the self-loving connection to discipline, because for so long, all my life, I thought that having discipline in my life would take away my freedom, would take away my uniqueness. And in the end, not having discipline created chaos within my life. It created self-destruction. It caused that disconnection to self. And I really feel that my journey has enabled me to see that through this whole process, not having discipline in my life caused anxiety. I was so disconnected to self that I also feel that the root of the problem of being undisciplined is that root of no self-worth, because we feel we're not worthy enough of giving ourselves this time. Because what self-discipline means is we're giving ourselves time to meditate, time to reconnect to ourselves, time to connect to Earth. You know, we're doing all these things to really help nurture ourselves. But when we don't feel worthy, when we don't feel good enough, or that we have time for ourselves, we won't take it. And so then we become undisciplined, and we think that putting everyone else first and doing everything that is seen as necessary and shoulds is priority for ourselves. I was really in a place of burnout because of this, because I wasn't consistently and disciplined in giving to myself and creating a structure where I could find freedom within that structure, all those boundaries, all the discipline. I was letting myself just put energy everywhere. And it was like, you know, everything was everywhere. It was just a big old mess, and the chaos reigned in my life and I could not find a way out. I just felt so like I was drowning in all this disconnect and all this everyone else's things, and I was never allowing myself to be shining in my life. I was just existing. Being undisciplined helped me see how much I needed it, how much I needed me, and how worthy I was of giving this time to myself. So discipline for me means being in a spiritual sense and giving myself the most self-love I could possibly do. It's practicing self-love to the extreme, discipline. Because what I'm doing now is that I am meditating every morning and afternoon. I am tapping. I am going out and spending time in nature. You know, I'm connecting with my kids, and I'm fitting my business in now. Rather than letting my business take over, rather than letting my family take over, I am finding things that nourish me in a balanced way. And doing this has changed my life dramatically. It's also changed my mindset around discipline. Instead of seeing it as a regimented, you know, a negative way, it is so nourishing, it is so loving, and it is so amazing in helping me find the way I want to live my life. And it's helped me create a life I love to live by being consistent, having the boundaries, having the structure, having the routine to fall back on, and live a life that is balanced, and I'm living it and shining my light as bright as I can be.
My name is Shauna Manwaring. I'm 31 years of age and I live in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And I am a student naturopath and currently a Reiki practitioner and medical intuitive. I was a bank manager at 23 years of age and recognised for my leadership abilities and sent on a leadership camp through my work. And the very last day, very last hour of that leadership live-in camp, I fell over a soccer ball and broke my arm. And I knew 5 minutes beforehand that it was time to go. I had that little intuitive click. But that very next kick of the soccer ball, I fell over. I landed on the straight arm and nothing else touched the ground. I broke my wrist and I broke my elbow. And I went into rehab pretty much straight away with a lot of the main issues of my arm actually misdiagnosed for the next ongoing 2.5 years. I had 4 surgeries over a period of about 5 years, and it got so dark. I reclused horrendously within myself, within my friendship circles. My whole mind became so infatuated, I guess, to a point, obsessed to a point with my pain. I had no other real impact or anything else happening. It was just all about carrying my shoulder, carrying my arm. It was really quite an ordeal, and it threw my whole world into chaos because I didn't even have the ability to return back to work. There was those 2 major surgeries in the middle. I had to take 2 months off each, and I was so angry. I got so angry with the process because my body was letting me down. I'd been so fit and so healthy. I'd always run, I'd always swam, and I was competitive. So the fact that my body wasn't responding to me the way that I was used to it responding to me, it just made me so angry. And I really had to start looking within and finding why. Why is this happening to me? Because it was workers' comp, they actually forced me to resign as part of my settlement. And I left Perth and picked up my whole life and went, okay, what am I going to do now? And I moved to Brisbane. And somewhere I haven't lived before. I'm originally from central Queensland. And I decided, right, that's it. I've got this ability now. I can do what I want and be what I want. And I started studying as a naturopath. With my injury, I really started to embrace probably some of my own spirituality and embrace some of my own unique knowings. It was really forcing me from such that dark place into, okay, what is this for me? Why am I experiencing this? What has happened for me to get to this place in my life where I can now become who I am? I did a lot of working within myself, did so many different modalities to be able to get through that horrendous nerve pain because the medical world just seemed to make things go worse. And I started Reiki to be able just to heal myself. It was for no other reason than to just do that healing for me. I started to feel within my body what was happening with other people, and I could isolate and indicate what's actually triggering in their physical body through emotional connection, if there was, through chakra connection, through mental connections, all the different bodies and how they were filtering through into a person's physicality. And I think it really brought that home for me. And then being able to further that study into becoming a naturopath, I really needed to know the biology. I had this real burn to know the human biology so that I could understand that aspect of it. Now I'm 2.5 years into my degree. So my injury is about 7.5 years ago. And as much as those 5 years in particular were probably some of my own personal hell, it still triggers me now. I can hear it in my voice. I can feel it in my voice. But it was really quite magical for the gift that it gave me to be able to find myself.
Hi, my name is Sarae Adamopoulos and I'm 50 years old, living in the beautiful wine region, McLaren Vale in South Australia. And I'm a health and wellness advocate, helping people consciously choose the life of their dreams. There have been some times in my life where I've tried to really control the outcome. And I remember when I graduated as a naturopath, and I was, going into my clinic, and I felt that I had to be a certain way and be really strong and knowledgeable and, big knower of all things. And, so I had this clinic and I set it up the way I thought I should, I had to do it. It wasn't really coming from really within me. And then even just the way I was trying to get, let's say new clients and just trying to run it without my authentic self, my authentic personality running through, and trying to control everything, the way bookings should be done, and, the time it should take, everything, try and just control every little thing, and about, how long each appointment should be, what about the follow-ups, everything. And there was just not really much joy in it. And it was almost, I think people could tell that it was sort of scripted, and it wasn't natural. It wasn't natural because you can't say, well, a follow-up appointment is 30 minutes long. And it was only when I went, oh, you know what, this is just so draining. I'm so tired from doing this. And if I'm going to keep with this profession, I'm just going to connect with the person in front of me, connect with who I am. And if we take a bit longer, so then I just started spacing appointments out. I didn't like, personally, I don't like to be kept waiting. So I didn't like other people to have to wait. Whereas, how you go to a doctor, I think they do it purposely. It's a system. They want you to be waiting for them. And I was not like that. So I just did it the way I wanted to. And then it was all much more joyful and happy. I've noticed more recently that, people are wanting to achieve more in their life, and, they've got these big goals and big dreams, and they may start off all inspired with a really great idea. So they're just finding that things are lining up for them and things are working out really well. Then they start to push harder, and they start to get really just totally in their head, and wanting things to turn out a certain way, and they, I suppose, lose that connection with that inspiration that got them going in the first place. That can happen to any of us, no matter how disciplined we are in certain practices and how far we have come on our journey. So at those times I try and take that deep breath and begin to detach, because when we are having that, that such wanting to control the outcome so much, that's where the chaos happens, and that that feeling of, I suppose, tension and frustration inside of you. We're just not engaging that flow and allowing perhaps the universe or the energies to line things up the way they just need to happen. So I find that if we can detach and say, allow it to happen as it should, then let the chaos happen, and all of a sudden, within that chaos, or after, after that storm, there is again that synchronicity, and you can just sometimes look back in absolute amazement and wonder and go, wow, I couldn't have planned it better myself.
Hi, my name's Mike from Bexhill-on-Sea, England. I'm a spiritual medium, come plumber. I'm 51 years old. When I was 10 years old, I was going to Richmond Ice Ring. Got off the bus, and a friend said, oh, come on, hurry up. He'd already crossed the road. I've shot across the road, and that was it. I got hit by a car. I was paralysed on my left side. I was unconscious for 6 weeks. During the actual being unconscious for 6 weeks, I was taken into the light, and I was asked which way I wanted to go. And by this time, the doctors said to my mum, he's got 48 hours to live or die. And I was asked by God, and it can only be, which way I wanted to go. And it was, do you want to come over here, or do you want to go back to your family? And I was 10 years old at the time. I was trying to work that one out, but go back to my family. And he said, okay, but you must help people. It took about 2 years to recover from this. I had to change schools from a normal school to with people with learning disabilities and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was life-changing. By the time I was 12, I could see spirit. My whole bedroom would light up at night. I couldn't wait to go to bed. It was like a cinema. And everything was alight around my room. And I remember my guardian angel coming right next to me. Unbelievable. And I saw her, I thought, oh. And I walked into my mum's room and said, Mum, I've got somebody next to me. And she couldn't see a thing, you know, but to me, she was lighting up the whole room, and which was amazing. I said, okay. She said, what does she look like? You know, so I described her and said, okay. And what would she want? I said, well, how do I ask her that? Just in your mind, ask her what she wants. And so I did. And she gave me a beautiful smile and then vanished, just went. Just a beautiful smile. And that is a connection that you don't, you don't say goodbye to. You know? As soon as I learned to drive, wow, I was going to every single spiritist church I could. That's in my local area, and there was quite a few in my local area. And I get to know all the mediums. I started healing when I was 19. By the time I was 20, 21, I was medium secretary for the Hampton Hill Spiritist Church. I've taught many people healing. It's taken a lot of discipline to get to where I am today, but I think the best part was going back all those years and where you find yourself. I have some really great friends that are built from healing, really. And it's the connection there that healing is love. And that to me, wow, it connects us all.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm 38 years old and I'm an Australian living in America with my wife, Lindsay. I am one of the co-heads of Hug Your Chaos, which is a brand that teaches people how to deal with their shadow self. And I'm also a published author of The Last Alchemist. For myself, as an experiential point along this journey, there was years and years that I was neglecting this darker aspect of myself out of fear. I would shovel it aside. I would refuse to look at it. And I would embrace all of the aspects of the spiritual path that I thought, you know, was reflective of being deeply seated in spiritualism without recognizing that there was this other half of my being. So it was when my life came to a grinding halt at one point. Partner with my new child had left me, my job kicked me out, closed the doors, you know, weren't operating anymore. So my entire life came to a grinding halt. I loaded my van and I started driving, and I drove out into the desert of Australia. And it was in the middle of the Simpson Desert where I was by myself. Nobody knew where I was. I was inside my van, crying my eyes out, screaming at the top of my lungs. And when I made peace with that state within myself, everything became still and everything else stripped away, and everything that didn't serve me and everything that didn't matter was taken away. And I was able to climb onto the roof of my van and watch the sunset and look up at the stars. And for the first time, I felt like I was breathing. For the first time, I felt like I was seeing and hearing. Chaos, to my mind, is the relaxed state of the universe. On an energetic level, the universe is comprised of energy. However, that energy, when undirected, when not being guided specifically by an intelligent force, is what we would refer to as chaos. It is literally just a state of universal energy that sits there. It's the 0 point. It's the blank canvas. Everything has the potential to exist, but nothing actually does exist. And so what we do is, as humans, we often tend to err towards the love and the light, the namaste. We neglect those shadow aspects of ourselves. So what we've done with Hug Your Chaos is we have come to understand that in order to reach a state of completion and to stand so beautifully within your own self, that you need to do so at a point of completion. You need to do that by grabbing those shadow aspects of yourself and hugging them. Only in facing that aspect of yourself are you able to then progress into working towards that state of completion and creating that shining light. Well, when we are only embracing the love and the light, the namaste, we're not taking any active steps at dealing with both sides of our being, which is neglecting that chaos aspect of the universe. That's where our untapped potential lie. So in taking those steps to move into that darker self, we can work with that energy, we can shine a light within that darkness, and we can start becoming a beacon for the rest of humanity. In combining both aspects of myself, it allowed me to sit deeply into my heart space and show me what truly was important to me in life. And so with my partner, my beautiful wife, Lindsay, we're now on the road in America, and we're journeying around. We're doing book signings for The Last Alchemist, and we're spreading the message of Hug Your Chaos, which is about embracing those shadow aspects of yourself, working with it, not being afraid of it, and being able to incorporate that into an active, everyday, healthy life so that you too can align with your heart path and do what is your mandate here on earth, what you were put here for. Super important.
Hi, my name is Jacob Cooper, 27 years old. I live in Long Island, New York. I'm a licensed social worker. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist and a Reiki master. My transition happened in terms of my weight loss when I was about 17 years old. I was in my senior year of high school. I was constantly struggling with weight. I was about 30 pounds every single year. And I just totally gave up on myself. And a lot of my behavior was self-sabotage. And I didn't believe that I was worth the time or the investment, to really take care of my own engine or my body. So, one day a girl came up to me and she goes, if you lost some weight, you'd be a nice looking guy. And that planted a seed in my head. And then after that, I was training and I was working out and everything like that. And, I shed all the weight. I came into school, that September, and no one could recognize me. But that also was one of the most challenging years of my life because, I was just a body. I was just a shell. Once I lost the weight, in my mind, I was still that size. So I had a bit of, body dysmorphic disorder where I would, in my head, I was living X amount of years at one size and all of a sudden my body changed. So my body and my mind were not in harmony. Now, for a couple of years after high school, I kind of scuffled with my own perfectionism and my weight. And for me, the body was all I saw. What really took me off my path was as an athlete, I tore my own hamstring. And I'm used to running around and playing sports and everything like that. But the hamstring was a shake-up period in my life. And that happened when I was, 18 or 19 years old in college, my first year, my first semester. So once I tore my hamstring, I was forced to look at other aspects than just my body. That's when I really, delved myself into readings about spirituality, mindfulness, meditation, and I was able to really nurture other aspects of myself that I wasn't entertaining. And for me, my perfectionism really was able to be much improved from seeing myself as not just a body, but seeing myself as a body, a mind, and a spirit. Once I was able to entertain a lot more aspects to myself, I was, contentment was easy. And I was able to have a lot more confidence from really nurturing those inner parts of myself that I wasn't necessarily entertaining. I think people just chase this body and it's like chasing the carrot on a stick. It's very hard to chase if you're just looking at your body, and there's a heightened sense of awareness to your body and sensitivity. And it really does, it can weaken your own self-image or your self-esteem. So I think finding ways to validate yourself, to really nurture who you are and get to understand that, and just seeing the body as just the vehicle, while also not ignoring it and seeing the body as important, seeing the mind as important, seeing the spirit as important, all allows people to be a lot more magnified and walk more in parallel with who they really are and live the most empowered life that you could possibly live. For me, I was able to really learn the art of discipline while also finding ways to nurture myself and to recognize that, hey, you didn't have to be this size, this weighted every day. There's a lot more to you than what met the eye. And if other people missed that, then that's their fault. But my focus was a lot more inward, and it wasn't as swayed as what others would have to think or say, because there was an inward part of me that was unseen, and that was more beautiful than anything else. And once I was able to tap into that, everything became easier and more manageable.
So what do you think? We have covered so many aspects of how chaos can be a catalyst for our enlightenment activation. Whether we've felt chaotic because we've experienced a personal injury or a personal near-death experience that has forced us to look at more spiritual aspects of our psyche and finding other ways to feel serenity and deal with pain, or whether we've found ourselves in a place of entrapment with perfectionism, projecting that out onto the world, projecting that onto our bodies, and trying to fix things to make us feel that sense of peace and calm. We're learning through these stories to step into a place of more discipline, to find ourselves more aligned with our higher self, stepping away from self-punishment, stepping away from perfectionism, and stepping more into self-love and into wholeness, into aligning our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual selves. We've taken this opportunity to look at the darker side of discipline, to see how we can go to one extreme and the other, and how both ends of that spectrum can feel chaotic. So I invite you now to step into balance, step into the energy of discipline that feels loving and inclusive.